Latinos don't even like themselves. That is the real problem here. Centuries of
You know what? There's a lot of truth to what she says. There's a lot of self-racism in the Latin American community and a lot of self-hatred. I will say this happens more in the North American version of the Latin Americans, and also to a certain extent extends towards people of African descent in the United States, not just people in Latin America. Now, granted, I'm one of those people that has sometimes defended against it, saying that we identify more with culture rather than skin color, because I'm sure you've seen that one guy, that comedian says, "I puppy, I know black, I Dominican." Well, there's a lot of truth to that. And I want to give anecdotal evidence to the racism, self-racism that we have for the people in the Latin American community, thinking that the whiter that you are, the more European American that you are, that you'll be accepted by people in this country and that you have a higher place. Now, if you haven't seen her full video, please watch it. Her name is The Harm in Harmony. She says a lot of the truth. I'm a small-time digital content creator. My name is Ray Condor on YouTube and also on TikTok. And I try to create, like a platform for people who want to visit Colombia, who want to try the foods and talk about the culture. And I want to expand my brand into travel outside of Colombia. But sometimes I talk about things like martial arts and politics. And this actually has to do with martial arts, believe it or not, because I got kicked out of my martial arts academy because of my teacher's racist, self-hating wife. That she hated the fact that she was Puerto Rican. She hated the fact that she was Latina, and tried to extend that upon me, and I had nothing to do with it. See, looking back, I didn't realize it till much later on. But now that I look back and call retrospect, I realized that yeah, she was self-hating racist. So basically, I was attending this martial arts school. It's a Chinese martial arts school, Kung Fu. The teacher is Chinese. My teacher is we say Sifu in Cantonese, and not Sensei. We say Sifu. He was born in Hong Kong. The wife is Puerto Rican, but born in the Bronx and raised in the Bronx. And they invited me to their house at times because I kind of grew up there. I've been there for like a good about, say, 15 years. And she looks at me and she's telling me that they're taking tango. And I say, hey, did you know that the tango comes from African slaves in Argentina? And she got quiet and he got quiet. They looked at me and said, yeah, see, what happened is that tango originally evolved into something else. Originally it was created by African slaves in Argentina, used in the brothels, when they were dancing with the women. And also when the Germans escaped World War II because of the war crimes and the Italians left to Argentina, they started changing. Then they paused and they didn't say anything. Now they take salsa, and salsa comes from Africa, right? They have New York salsa, Cuban salsa, but it all comes from Africa eventually. And I looked at them and said, hey, did you know that cumbia, which is the national music of my country, actually comes from Africa, called cumbe. It comes from Ghana. It's called cumbe over there. So when it arrived in Colombia, it pretty much mixed with the native indigenous population, with their type of music, and also mixed with the European element, and it known as modern cumbia as today. Now most people know cumbia through Mexicans, but it actually comes from Colombia and is a lot different. It's more African sounding, it's more indigenous sounding, the traditional version of it anyways. And so she looks at me and she closes her eyes and she goes, yeah, that's fine and all, but you need to stop trying to be black. I said, but I'm not white, I'm Colombian. And she looks at me and she goes, but you're white. I said, no, I am Colombian. And she goes, but your skin looks white. I said, no, I am Colombian. So she closes her eyes and she says, does the neck thing towards me. And she says to me, well, I bet you your birth certificate says that you are Caucasian. I said, no, my birth certificate doesn't say I'm Caucasian. If you look at any birth certificate in the Republic of Colombia, there's no space for race. Race does not exist in birth certificates there. And I told her that, and I did the same neck thing towards her. So she got red and didn't know what else to say. And I went home and I double checked and I spoke with my parents to double check, and I was 100% true that because in our cultures we identify with nationality first, not skin color. So that was one of the first times. Now my teacher might see kind of angry about it, but he didn't say it because I was pretty much defending myself. That doesn't exist. There was another time where one of my first jobs, they had helped me because they will help me a lot in terms of school and everything else. They're kind of my mentors, not just martial arts and everything else. So what I was told was that I could not use my full name, because my name is Alvaro Andres. My middle name is Andres. I usually don't like to say my name online, but I'm going to say just for this particular moment that she told me she didn't care what my full name was, and don't put it on my resume. I said, but I don't have any other name. That's the name that I was born with. I don't have any other name. Like, what are you talking about? And then when I was dating this Haitian girl, she told me not to date them. I said, what do you mean? And she looks at me and she goes, well, I'm sorry, but in my culture, in my family, I was taught not to date black people. I'm like, what in the world is this lady talking about? And I had remembered that she told me that her grandfather was black. Or no, I remember her telling me that she was somewhere down the line she was Haitian, even though she is a New York Rican, right? Her mom was born in Puerto Rico. So her husband came and told me later on that her grandfather is from Haiti. Her grandfather is a black Haitian man, and because he had married a nice white woman, probably French, which was illegal in that time, they had to flee Haiti. They had to go to Puerto Rico, and then her mom was born in Puerto Rico because they were going to kill him, right? And I said, well, I'm not Puerto Rican. Maybe it is how you do it in your country, but I don't do it in my country like that. You know, like Colombia has the third highest population of people of African descent. I always promote Afro-Colombian culture. I always promote Pacific culture because the Pacific has a higher concentration of people of African descent that has been untouched. Even though my ex-girlfriend now, because you've seen her in some of my videos, she's Afro-Colombian, but she's from the Caribbean side, Cartagena, and she's more mixed. So, but there's a lot of people, there's millions and millions of people of African descent. And I looked at them and said, I'm not like that. She goes, yeah, but you don't have to do that. What happened if your daughter is born? I'm like, what in the world? Are you like, I did not know this about them, and I remember feeling sick to my stomach and wanting to throw up, and my niece is half Jamaican and Bahamian and everything else. She got kinky hair, and they tell me, it's like, oh, well, what happened if your child has kinky hair? It doesn't matter. It's none of your business. It's what I want and what I do with my life, right? So coming in retrospect, I didn't see that, like it was because I was so shocked. I didn't even realize there was self-hatred and self-racism on her part, and she was infusing it through him. The dude's not even Latin; he's Chinese, And I told him, I said, listen, children see that kind of stuff. If my niece sees me that I'm trying not to date anybody because of a certain skin color, a certain phenotype, she's gonna realize that. Children notice those type of things, and it hurts them. And I explained that to him. And the day that I actually got kicked out, she came across this thing where she was telling me, it was a meeting at her house. We're having dinner over there because sometimes on the Sundays we will do like dinner. They'll invite me to Sunday dinner where we have something special. She started telling me that Colombian women do nothing but get pregnant, that the men are lazy, that the men don't work and only the women work and everything else. When I have seen Colombian men who work in the coffee fields wake up at 4:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. By 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, they're picking your coffee. So you can sit there, drink your coffee, and talk trash about them, right? And she was telling me that we're nothing and that the cartels are coming back. And says, first of all, what about the lawyers? What about all the lawyers and all the bankers and all the professionals in Colombia? Literally everybody in my family is a professional, men and women. And she got mad at me. And then when I stood up to her, I pretty much had left and I didn't want to come back. And this is the story of what happens because she had always wanted to be white. Her husband had told me the grandfather was black, and growing up in New York City in the 50s, because they're older, they had wanted to assimilate. And what did they do to assimilate? They had to straighten their hair, they had to have lighter skin and everything else and like that. But this is not the 1950s, and I was born in a different country and I'm born in a different era. I'm not afraid of those people, and neither should anybody be. But this is the anecdotal evidence. Yes, there is self-hatred, self-racism, and because of that, it extends to other people in the black community. Why did a lot of the men, especially the Cubans, reject Kamala Harris? Because she's a woman of color. She is a woman of color from Jamaica. They can say whatever she is, that she's Indian. She's Indian and black. I've seen her family in Jamaica. She's Indian and black. And guess what? They think that by being whiter and by being closer to the master on the table, then they're gonna get a higher place in life. That they're not gonna suffer, and then they're gonna get more money. But they're never gonna get that piece of that pie. So she's 100% correct. And I wanted to bring this as just as a talking point for everybody in this world of politics that we have nowadays. When I go to Colombia, I don't see it as much. Maybe it's more hidden, but here is this self-hatred is in your face, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people voted, because it was always against the black man. They don't want you to have power. They don't want the minorities to rise up. And what do? You're whiter than them. You're different than them. You're more educated than them. They do that to everybody. I've seen it many times. Oh, you're different than those people. What do you mean different than those people? I have black people in Colombia too. What's the difference?